Hey, Montel Williams here. Look, I've got some incredible news to share with you. I want to tell you about my brand new book that's coming out that's called The Sailing of the Intrepid. Now, this book is more than just an historical account. It's a tribute to the brave men who served aboard the USS Intrepid and a celebration of their extraordinary legacy. Writing this book was such an incredible story, and I'm really thrilled to be able to share it with you. So don't wait to grab your little piece of history. The book is available right now to order. You can go to montelmedia.com, and you can even get a limited autograph signed copy. Now, thank you so much for your support. I can't wait for you to read this incredible story of the sailing of the Intrepid. I'll see you on the pages. Well, hey guys, welcome to another episode of Free Thinking with Montel. I'm your host, Montel Williams, and today I have a guest who is very special to me, someone whose journey I've followed and with admiration for over a decade. Her name is Ashley Schneider, and she is the founder of MS Run the US, and she has a brand new memoir out called The Long Run Home. It's a powerful story of love, endurance, and purpose. Ashley embodies the very essence of turning adversity into action. I first learned about her mission back in 2009 and was immediately struck by her determination. I even had the distinct pleasure of meeting her incredible mother, Jill, whose battle with multiple sclerosis inspired it all. Ashley, welcome. So good to see you again, my friend. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Absolutely. Let's start at the beginning. Come on now. Your connection to MS is deeply personal. Tell us about your mother, Jill, and how growing up in the shadows of the disease really helped shape who you are.
My mother, as you know, is an exceptional person. She passed 8 years ago from secondary symptoms of MS, but I talk about her in the present tense because for me, she's still very much alive in my nonprofit and what I do. And she's also visited me in different ways. So she's still very present in my life, but she is an example of how to live well through adversity. She was diagnosed with MS in 1980, and about 14 years into the disease for her, she started to get, you know, disability, poor fine motor skills, cognitive dysfunction, but it never took her spirit. It never touched the essence of who she is. And as an adolescent, watching her lose her abilities, that broke my heart. I hate MS. I hate what it took from my family, but I also now as an adult and even in my youth saw how my mom was so strong and still found joy in everyday circumstances because she was not tied to what was happening to her. Her spirit was deep and her spirit was strong, and I feel really lucky to have witnessed that.
I remember your mom when I met her and felt the same way. The second I met her, you could tell that, is that saying that I've kind of bounced around with that I had MS, but MS didn't have me. I mean, clearly it was that she embodied that. She had MS and she recognized that, but her soul shined through.
Yeah. I mean, people were drawn to her. She was drawn to people. She was uniquely interested in people and she wanted to know them. She wanted to be out in the community. That's one of the things that MS Run the US and my Run Across America really opened up for her as our family. When I was young growing up with her MS and my dad being her main caregiver, it can take away your independence. And so I have two sisters and a brother. There was four of us, a big family. We were into sports. We went on vacations as a family. My parents really made sure that we tried to have as normal as an upbringing among the difficulties that MS had in our life or presented. And she just, it was an opportunity for her to then be out in the community again, talk about her MS, talk about her strong faith and how it didn't touch her will to live and her joy to be alive. And I think that's a remarkable quality. And I really, really appreciate that about her.
Your book delves into the complex relationship with your mother against the backdrop of her illness. Is there, a specific moment or memory with her that became a source of strength for you and on your most challenging days? Let's say when you're on the road, we'll get into that. But was there something that, literally just was that thing that shined through for you?
I think it was twofold. One, there's a specific memory for me. There was a lot of self forgiveness. I had to work through. My mom never held it against me, but she had a serious a seizure when I was about 14 years old. And because of her MS, she didn't recover quickly. She was in the hospital for 6 weeks, learning how to walk, talk, feed herself, use her hands. And I was 14 at the time, and it was really hard for me to go see her. And so she was in the hospital for about 2.5 weeks before I went to visit her. And I just didn't want to see her relearning how. I mean, she was my mom. She was my role model, and I just couldn't bring myself. I just wanted to ignore it. I wanted to pretend it didn't happen. And so I carried that with me as I grew up quite a bit. Felt like I felt maybe shame around that and embarrassed that it took me that long to go see my mom when she was in the hospital and she needed us to be around her. And so I say that because I think pain and anger fueled a lot of my run across America and wanting to do something about the disease. But then my mom, she did so many things where I'll give you an example, but she was able to frame her ability and just kind of shift a perspective. So I was a personal trainer. I brought her to my training group one day, and she was sitting in her chair, and this story's in the book, and one of my clients was working out. I was maybe having them do burpees or something. And at the end of the set, my client looked up to my mom and said, just off the cuff, "Jill, that chair looks nice." And she very simply and very sweetly said, "I'll trade places with you."
Mm.
And there are things like that where and she wasn't mean about it. She was just being honest. And she said it in a way that felt like, wow, okay, you're right. I understand where she could see that and where I'm coming from, and wow, I overstepped, what I was thinking there. And I think that is what I try to take. That's try to what I took in MS Run the US, my run across America, but what I try and give to other people is that movement is an opportunity. You get to do that, and it could be lost. So do it now.
I remember your message, getting your message. A young woman on her own deciding to run across the entire country. A lot of people have some big ideas, but not everyone acts on them. What was it about that moment that made you take the leap of faith?
It made sense to me, which I know sounds ridiculous because I had not run a marathon yet when the idea came to me. I had not fundraised any money for any cause. So the idea was to run a marathon a day for 6 consecutive days for 6 months across the country and raise $500,000 for MS. I didn't have any qualifying skills to say that I could do something like that. But when the idea dropped into my mind, it made sense to me. It made me feel like everything that had happened in my life led to this moment, and all I had to do was say yes. And I decided to say yes, and I decided to go for it, and I found that I was capable, but it was really that trusting, that intention, that opportunity, that calling. It was really a trusting of that calling, even though it didn't necessarily make sense. I knew it was for me, and I had to go after it.
For our listeners, pursuing such an ambitious goal can be really, it can feel overwhelming. For someone listening who has a big and scary idea, something that feels impossible, what is the very first practical step you would advise them to take to turn that idea into a plan?
One step at a time. That's really what you need to do. When I thought about running across America, 3,288 miles, if I thought about it in that amount of miles, it feels almost unsurmountable, but you break it down to days. How many miles do I have to run today? And then even if that feels overwhelming, how many miles do I have to run this hour? How many miles do I have to run before I get my next water break? So it's very analogous to other big goals. Is you take the big goal and you break it down into achievable segments, and you break it down as small as it needs to be broken down in order for you to act. Because the only way for you to overcome that uncertainty and that fear is for you to take an action. So daily, look at what you can achieve today. Some days you have higher abilities to achieve things. Some days you're tired and it's just not a big producing day. But even on that day, you can do one thing that can get you closer to that overall goal.
Yeah, you did it. I mean, in 2010, you ran from San Francisco to New York City. Give us the run by the numbers. How many miles per day total, or how many miles total? Again, you already said that, but I mean, how many miles per day and how many states did you cover?
The average was 24 miles a day, 6 days a week for 6 months. I traversed 13 states, crossed over 3 mountain ranges. I burned over 300,000 calories, ran through 11 pair of running shoes, and only endured a couple blisters and a bout of heat exhaustion. That's the run by the numbers.
The altitude thing had to be crazy, was it not? I mean, you're from San Francisco, so you're basically just a little bit above sea level, but you cross mountains along the way. Was that something that you you I guess you probably thought about it, but you really didn't think about
I did not think about it.
it?
It was one of those actually running over the mountains for me, I believe is, I don't want to say easy, but it wasn't as difficult as what you might think because you acclimate to the elevation and the mileage as you go. I'm not driving a car, you're not going up in an airplane, you're literally running. So I was able to acclimate to the elevation and my body adapted to the mountains as I was going up them. The hardest state was actually Iowa. A lot of people don't know this, but Iowa is very, very, very hilly. So from the west side of the state to the east side of the state, I was literally running hill intervals, which is harder for your body than it is to just go straight up for 9 miles.
Wow, that's an incredible athletic feat. But the book makes it clear it wasn't just a physical challenge, it was an emotional and psychological battle going on at the same time, too. What was the biggest internal battle you faced during those 6 months, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest internal battle I had, my crew member was my boyfriend turned fiance during the event. And that was probably the biggest struggle was living with him in a motorhome, running for 5 hours every day on the road, managing a nonprofit, trying to coordinate fundraising events. It was really, that was the difficulty of it. The physical part came a little bit easier to me, but the working with someone, living with someone, there wasn't a lot to our relationship outside of just the running and the fundraising. And then also trying to manage a business. That was all a lot of work. And that was part of what I wanted to come out in the book was that you can run across America, but if you're going to run across America and found a charity and try and raise $500,000, it's a lot. It's a lot of work.
It's perseverance, perseverance, perseverance. Is there a specific moment or memory from that journey, maybe something involving your mother that became a source of strength for you on the most challenging of days?
I always had the opportunity to call her, and MS affected her throat quite a bit and her cognitive function. And so the conversation wasn't always fluid. But if I could just talk to her and feel her presence, just who she was a source of strength and offered that perspective. Specifically, the very first summit that I climbed, Echo Summit into Lake Tahoe, I didn't really feel like being out there. The weather was meh and it was cold and I didn't really feel like being out there. That was the first time in a couple weeks that I just didn't feel like it. I kind of wanted to sit next to a fire with a cup of tea and be cozy for the day. And I called my mom and I thought of her and just her being who she is, knowing that she climbed her own MS mountain every day, that became a source of strength. And that again reminded me that I get to do this and was able to kind of shake those feelings of not wanting to do it.
You mentioned in your book and in interviews how strangers and small communities along the way made such a big difference in your life. Could you share any stories of a particular encounter that changed the way you saw kindness or humanity?
Nebraska is an amazing state. It's very community oriented people there. It is one of the most supportive areas. The people were so nice. There was this young girl that came out while her dad had been biking and he found out what I was doing and told his daughter and she came out and gave me strawberries on the side of the road. And I just saw that care and that interest all the way through Nebraska. But there are just so many stories like that. When I arrived in California, the family that I stayed with, they gave me a car. I didn't have a car. I asked them if I could where I should buy an inexpensive moped, and that was my solution to get from the RV campground to the road every day. And if you think about it, that is not a solution because there was snow and rain, but I was trying to be frugal and I didn't think about buying a car and they gave us a car. They were gonna, donate to charity. The RV that I stayed in, a family borrowed to me from Wisconsin for the whole endeavor. They just gave me their motorhome, covered insurance, covered all the repairs. They're just, I, you are a great example of just saying, "Hey, I'm going to come support this." You helped line up sponsors so that we had the funding to do it. There were just so many stories like that, and it made me want to tell those stories because I wanted other people to see how we are connected and how just putting yourself out there and being vulnerable that we can help each other with the little that we have. If it's a motorhome, cool. If it's a bushel of strawberries, then give that as well.
Wow. As someone who lives with MS, also lives with MS, your mission really resonated with me even before I met you. When I heard about your story, I felt compelled to support your voice. What did having that support mean to you out on the road, feeling like you were just one person against a whole huge goal?
I still remember when you called me. I submitted a general contact form on your website and just wanted you to know that I was running across America for MS. And I just thought, hey, maybe he would want to know about this. And you called me, and I just thought, whoa, Montel Williams just called me and believed in me. I didn't need you to believe in me because I had a lot of people who were like, oh, that's a cool idea. But I could tell they were like, all right, lady, we'll see what, well, I was young. So young girl, we'll see what you're going to do. But you never put me in a box of being too young, too ambitious, too whatever it might be. You saw it and you believed in it. And that meant a lot to me to not only have you believe in it, but then you backed it. You reached out to business contacts and got sponsorship funding and media, and you just wholeheartedly, there was no reservation of what you did. You you believed in it and also you supported it, and it wasn't like, we'll wait and see what Ashley does. You wanted it to succeed, and I just thought I really appreciated it. It really helped boost what I was capable of. I don't know if you know this story, but my backup if I didn't get a motorhome and funding is I was going to push a stroller.
Mm.
I was I was going to run across America no matter what. But
Mm.
I was going to push a stroller if I didn't get all the funding. So you helped prevent me pushing a stroller across the country. But I do think it takes that level of determination of I'm going to do it, whether or not I have the resources, but you helping provide that and creating the contacts and the media lift that went along with that. It just added a level of credibility that I think transferred to people that I met, runners, donors, and helped MS Run the US get to where it is today.
Right. Well, now you finished that monumental run in New York City. You are the 16th woman in history to ever run across America. I mean, so that's got to be crazy when you stop and you think about it. But you describe this moment not as a pure victory, but as a little bit of a disappointment. And why?
I, it wasn't just about running across America. That was a very cool athletic achievement. And I'm really glad that I did it and that I was able to do it as healthy as I did it. But I also wanted to raise $500,000 for MS and MS research. When I got to New York, I had only raised $56,000. And so even though I was at the finish of my run, it didn't feel like the finish. I didn't achieve the goal that I set out to do. So I was really wondering up until I got to those steps, I thought someone is going to be inspired and donate hundreds of thousands of dollars. I believed that that was my mission so much that someone was going to, you know, give that money. When I got to those steps and that didn't happen, then I started to wonder, well, why? I believe I should do this. I believe I should fundraise $500,000 for MS. How do I do that? And what I found is that New York was not a finish. It was my athletic finish, but it wasn't the finish of my journey. I had runners who joined me along my run who said something like they wanted to do something similar but didn't have the time or the resources. And so that planted the seed for what I do today, which is America's longest relay. Our team has 21 athletes. Each runner does a marathon a day for 6 consecutive days to be on the team. So they have 1 week to do what I did for 6 months. So I'm giving them that opportunity. And then they also need to fundraise at least $10,000 to be on the team. So that really was, New York ended up being more of a middle than a finish. And it pointed me to the answer of how do you fundraise that much, which is collective community. And now the community has raised over $4 million for MS.
Congratulations. Yay. Come on with your bad self. And then so now you've created it. So that happens every year. Where can people go? First off, let's go back up a little bit. Let's go to the book first. Where can people go to find your book? Give out all the stats and digits and give out the digits for yourself.
Yeah, the book is on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com. You can also find those links on my website, and my website is ashleymschneider.com. And the book is The Long Run Home.
Okay. And now, if they wanted to get involved in the new MS Run, the US Relay, where would they go?
So the website is msruntheus.org. We have this wild relay run across the country, which I understand is not, it's huge endeavor. It's 160 miles of running in 6 days. We are also expanding. So 2025 has been a milestone year for MS Run the US. I hired my first successive executive director. His name is Christian Jensen, and we essentially have created a launching pad to what MS Run the US is moving towards, which is more community-based events, all centralized around running, but giving people different kinds of running opportunities. An example, we have Team Endurance. We'll be at races nationwide in our I Run to Stop MS jerseys. That's an opportunity to run with us, to fundraise, to fuel our mission. We have MS Run clubs that are launching across the country. We have my biggest dream is to create fitness and nutrition access through what I call MS Fit gyms. You know that exercise and nutrition are essential for people living with MS. You have to get on an anti-inflammatory diet and an anti-inflammatory lifestyle. And I want greater access to those resources through an MS Fit gym. And that is the direction that MS Run the US is headed. And that's all on the website at msruntheus.org.
Yeah, your book, The Long Run Home, isn't just a running book. What is the core message you want readers to take away?
The core message is I want readers to dare to begin their own thing. It doesn't have to be a run across America. What is something that you feel urged and called to do? And this is a manual on how to do that. There's a lot of resources in there. There's a lot of stories that give people tools on how they can go after their own thing. And again, it doesn't have to be this major life goal. It can be something as simple as changing your lifestyle. If you want to start meditating, if you want to start drinking tea instead of alcohol, if you want to walk 30 minutes a day, whatever it might be, dare to begin. Start now. You don't know what you're capable of until you take it into action, and you have to act to overcome that fear. You can't think your way into it. You have to act your way into it.
I mean, your journey has truly been about leading with vulnerability. How has being so open about your own struggles and your self doubts help you connect with people and lead your MS Run the US community more effectively?
That's an interesting question because for a very long time, I didn't want to be vulnerable. And I, in many ways, hid what my weaknesses were, or I was vulnerable in some ways, but not others. What MS Run US has taught me, and I think a major life lesson for me, is that I am not going to achieve my goals unless I can do it within community. Yes, I ran across America, but I wasn't going to ever fundraise $500,000 on my own. I really needed to learn how to be in community with people. And I've learned that lesson again and again. Even publishing the book, my initial goal was to write it, find a publisher, kind of surprise everyone with this book that I all of a sudden had. And it really took a community and people around me supporting me for that book to come into fruition. And so I am vulnerable because I'm really committed to being honest and authentic. And I think everybody struggles with something. And I don't mind talking about what my struggles are because it doesn't make me weak. It makes me real. And also because I've struggled, I now have tools and resources that other people can use for their own struggles to go towards their goals or a better life for themselves.
Sure. I mean, in your book, you capture, not just the challenges, but also moments of beauty and humanity on the road, support from strangers, and communities. But is there a particular encounter from your journey that challenged or changed how you see kindness or humanity?
There's not a particular encounter. I mean, there's a questionable character in the book. I had someone that actually stole money from me and the nonprofit. I was able to get the money back. It's a really cool story. That story specifically, I learned a lot. So I really feel like I didn't fail. I learn and I grow forward. There are so many other stories of people supporting and helping. And I didn't want to really cloud the whole endeavor with this one bad encounter that I had and the mistakes that I made in that encounter. But I think when you look at the whole picture, in general, I feel like people are really good. If you're open and honest and you're courageous in your actions, people support that. And I see that not only in what I do, but I see that in the relay runners that I coach in their own journey. Fundraising $10,000 is no small endeavor for the person, the everyday athlete that is coming to MS Run the US. But we've seen time and time again, we're now going into our 14th run across America, that if they share their why, if they say why they're at the nonprofit, why they want to run 6 marathons in 6 days, and then share where the money goes, community supports those individuals. And they're surprised by how many people want to be a part of something like this.
I think the one thing in your book also that you talk about without having to talk about directly is the fact of how important family support is, caregiver support is when it comes to having a person in the family who's going through something like MS or any other debilitating disease or some sort of debilitating moment in their lives. What bit of advice would you give someone who says, well, I can't run 10 miles, I can't run 20 miles, I can't do this, I can't do that, but I want to help? Well, what kind of advice would you give them?
Is the question is they want to help a
They're
person
they
that
want
they
to, yeah, they're the caregiver. They want to try to be a caregiver, and they don't think they're doing enough because we stack up what they're doing against running across the United States. They may feel as if, oh my goodness, I can't get anything done. You know what I mean? There are people who think that they have to achieve a milestone like running across America rather than just doing the day to day, and they should be
yeah.
applauded for the day to day.
My advice for caregivers is to do one thing every day that takes care of yourself first. I saw my dad was very self-sacrificing. And I think that is very romantic as a story, but when you look at the actual how that played out and the things that he needed to do to manage his stress and anxiety that weren't always maybe functional, I think it was more destructive than it was helpful. And so I think caregivers first need to take care of themselves. What thing do you need every day in order to feel like you have the energy to be a caregiver? And I always encourage people to do things that they're passionate about. So maybe it's not running, but maybe you love crocheting. Maybe you can do a fun crocheting event where you get your crocheting friends together and then you put the why behind it and share why it's important to you, especially, I'm an advocate for MS, but it could be any disease or any cause. But if you want to help your community and you want to make a difference, or maybe it's even you want to just help the one person you're caregiving for, create a community around it. But you have to be vulnerable in order to create that community. You have to share why it's important to you, and you have to do it on a level that is really an emotional story. That I will say that was one thing that my dad wasn't very vulnerable with other people outside of the family. He wanted to just kind of manage it privately, and I think that was a little bit because he was a private person. But if you are looking for support and you want to be a support, you have to do something good for yourself every day, and then also you have to be vulnerable within a community, in my opinion, so that other people know how to help you.
Well, your story is a testament of the power of one person to create a ripple effect that touches thousands. I mean, there are, excuse me, the work that you do with MS Run the U.S. provides financial aid, community, and hope. For anyone listening right now who's carrying a big, scary idea, what's the very first practical step they should take to make that vision real?
What's the very first practical step? That's a good question because there's a lot of things that could happen.
Sure.
You have to believe in yourself. If I'm going to go to the core root of it, when I got the idea to run across America, I was working on a cruise ship. I was traveling around the world. I decided I was going to leave that job and come home and run across America. I had to believe in myself in order to quit my job, because fear has a way of showing up when you're least expecting it and at the most opportune times. But if you believe in yourself, then you can use things like writing, self-talk to like lift you up, right? So you have this big, scary idea. You have to believe in yourself. If you don't wholeheartedly believe in yourself right now, then it's your job to find resources, whether it's a mentor, podcasts, books. There's a lot out there, a lot of content out there that can help you shape belief in what you want to go after. So I would say belief is the first step. The second step is whatever thing comes up as the very next thing for you to do. So for me, it was quit my job. Okay, quit my job. For me, it was, all right, now I quit my job. Now I got to start training. And it was breadcrumbs along the way. Then I've got to start a charity. I didn't quit my job knowing I was going to start a charity. It was something that came up along the way. And when that challenge arose, then I just broke it apart and worked on it and did it one step at a time. But I think it really stems from believing in yourself, that you are capable of doing it and you're capable of figuring it out. And I think in general, people don't believe that they're capable of figuring it out. And the thing I do want to share is that the people that have achieved something great, it's not because they knew the whole pathway before they started. It was because they believed that they were capable of figuring it out.
There are a lot of people who are probably moved by this interview, and I want them to dig deep and donate, even if they're not going to be a runner. Where can they go to do that?
msruntheus.org. There's a big donate button right on the page. We have 4 pillars of our mission. It's a great organization to support for the MS community.
Super. And after building such an incredible organization and seeing it grow, what drives you now? What does your personal long run home look like today?
I just want to help people take action. I want them, whether it's big or small, to know that they are capable of going after the thing that's going to make their life better. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but I promise you the life on the other side of that decision is so beautiful and productive that it's more than worth it, in my opinion.
Ashley, your story is incredibly inspirational. My goodness, my dear, you've done such an incredible job. We in the MS community thank you so much for all the hard work you put behind what you're doing. Reach out, keep me posted on what you're up to, so we can, and if you want to come back, you always have an open forum here. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And a personal thank you to you from me.
Thank you so much. And Montel, I'm honored. I'm honored to work for the MS community. I'm honored to be on this show. So thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And one more time, throw out the name of the book. Where do they go?
The Long Run Home. It's on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com.
All right. Thank you for reminding us all that no matter how daunting, we can truly move the world forward one step at a time. And again, she just said it, The Long Run Home. Go out and get a copy of it. It's a must read. Ashley, thank you so much. Take care of yourself, your family, and take care of all of your loved ones. And for all of you out there who've been paying attention, my goodness, make sure you keep tuning in to Free Thinking with Montel. Thanks for joining me on Free Thinking with Montel. Please make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell to be notified when new episodes post each week. We'd love to hear your feedback, so please send us your comments. Military Makeover is so grateful for the support of Purple Heart Homes, a nonprofit organization that rebuilds and transforms the homes for our veterans.
Our heroes come home with sacrifices most of us can't imagine. As a veteran myself, I've been there and founded Purple Heart Homes to help.
When I tell the story of Purple Heart Homes, it's the freedom to not have to depend on somebody else to do the simple everyday things in life.
Visit phhusa.org/makeover to learn how you can help.